All right, it's time to start. We have good number. Glad. Hope you can see my screen and you can hear me loud and clear. Gokul?
Yes, yes, we have. I can see the screen.
Yeah, super. Okay, good morning, team, and welcome to our PMIPCC Agile series. And thanks for joining on Saturday morning once again, and that too on 31st. And a couple of hours, our gala time will start. Thanks again for joining us today again. Yeah. So for those who are joining new today, you can see our previous sessions in our YouTube channel. We have captured them. You can go to our PMI Pearl City Hyderabad chapter, PMI PCC YouTube uh, channel, and then in the playlist you can see the Agile series. We have other content as well for Agile topics. We have completed till now 8 sessions. You can see the recordings there. And so today we have Gokul, our very own board member for PMA Pearl City chapter and is the project management leader, Mr. Gokul Kolipaka. And he will be covering Scrum framework in particular today. And a little bit about Gokul, it's quite a good impressive profile here. He's a good problem solver, program and project management professional, and Agile enthusiast, and it comes with end-to-end experience in healthcare and pharma domain ranging from R&D, operations, clinical trials, and IT solutions. He earlier worked with GE Healthcare and is graduated from Imperial College of London and AstraZeneca and Deloitte, and is currently working in Emphasis. And is an expert in various project management methodologies. And as I said, is currently serving as a board member for our chapter PMIPCC from April 2020. He is handling the portfolio marketing and sponsorship role. You can connect on LinkedIn. You can scan the QR code and you can connect to him on the LinkedIn. And Gokul, thanks for coming forward and taking some time uh, and to tell about Scrum and your experience with Scrum. I know you have rich experience on Scrum, and thanks for coming forward. I'll pass it on screen sharing to you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll share my screen before we start. One second.
So while Gokul is doing that, I tested the link of the Mira events for the Agile conference. You can register. I'll be giving more details at the end of this session. Go ahead, Gokul. We can see your screen.
Perfect. Hello, all. Good morning, and thank you for joining on a Saturday morning, and that too on the 31st. I hope I'll give you a good session to end this year on a high note. And without a further ado, we'll start with this. But before I start this session, I just want to know from your side, do you know Scrum? First of all, and does participants here, did they work on Scrum? Do they know? And if uh, how many of them are actually working in Scrum framework at the moment? Vinay, I am depending on you.
Yeah. Amrita said yes, and Lakshmi Narayana, and yes, quite a few response. Yes, Anita, Ashwin Kumar. Yes, they are working.
Okay, seems like many of you know Scrum, but I believe some of you said not yet completely into the Scrum. So yeah, we'll do one thing today. I'll have some basics that I prepared to give you a glimpse of what Scrum is all about. And at the same time, because there's so many people here who knows Scrum, will make this as interactive as possible. So that's the main agenda here. And today I'm going to discuss about Scrum. why actually the Scrum has, they developed the Scrum framework. Any idea before I give my opinion? Why actually a Scrum? You can type in the chat.
Fast delivery, Lakshminarayan is
Quickly changing changes,
yeah, product.
customized delivery, iterative delivery model. Perfect. Yes, all of you are correct. Absolutely. In until 1985, I'll just in a next slide I'll show you. We have a waterfall methodology, and people are using waterfall methodology for the general project management development. But then they realized that they have a very fast way of developing product, and hence created the Scrum. So that is why the Scrum is developed. And what is Scrum and how the Scrum framework will be implemented in the Agile methodologies, we will go through in the next slides.
Yeah,
So
Gokul,
here,
We can see your both windows actually. One is
both
slide and
windows.
other is timer.
Okay. All right. I'll just need to reshare then. 1 second. Okay. I guess here we don't have that option, so you share it,
Should
and
I
I
share?
will see the notes.
Yeah.
Vinay, thank you. Right. Sorry, guys. So here you can see our history of the Scrum, when the Scrum actually, the name Scrum came up. It started in the 1985 by Hirotaka Takeuchi and Ikujiro Nonaka. These are the two Japanese scientists who actually introduced the word Scrum in when they are actually finding out a new holistic approach for a commercial product development by a self-organized team, which is cross-functional. So basically, it's like a rugby team. The word Scrum came from the sport rugby. I hope all of you know about rugby. It's a tackle game, but the team will actually in my first photo you might have seen that is exactly is Scrum, where all the team members will come, at least minimum eight of them will come and form a huddle and try to move the ball that is in the center to one side of it. So that is called as Scrum, and it has a time limit and all that. So because it is a cross-functional and a set of people, self-organized people that come to one purpose, to move the ball, and here to develop a product in a very fast and agile way is Scrum. That's why they termed it as a Scrum. And in the 1993, a Scrum team has been formed by Jeff McKenna, Jeff Sutherland, and John Talesas. I don't know if I spelled it correctly. So these three actually developed a software development team at Easel Corporation to build an object-oriented design and analysis tool. So that's how first the Scrum team developed. And since 1995, the Scrum started evolving. Jeff Sutherland first published a white paper on Scrum and how they used the Scrum technology to develop their product and how useful it was. And then later on, Scrum 1.0, Scrum 2, and right now, since 2010, I think it is Scrum 3.0 that is now prevalent in the right now what we are using. Next slide. So what is actually a Scrum? Here you can see it is a lightweight framework that helps people, teams, and organizations to generate and value adaptive solutions for complex problems. So I guess here you might have understood what the actual definition is. It is a lightweight work. It is a part of Agile methodology framework where they use the Scrum framework. It's a framework. In Agile methodology, there are many frameworks that happens in Agile methodology, and one of them is Scrum. It is purposefully incomplete. And as we can see, I'll show you the next slides. The philosophy, theory, and structure of the Scrum is the only one that is given in terms of the framework. And it is all depending on the people that they're using. And it is all collective, their intelligence, people, the team intelligence. It's a very collaborative, communicative tool in the framework that we use in Agile methodology to bring the product easier in an iterative mode and a very fast way. It majorly depend, as I said, it is majorly depend on the relationship and interactions between the team. Scrum employs an iterative, incremental approach to optimize productivity and control the risk. So here, the Scrum theory, basically. Next slide, Vinay. The Scrum theory, it is founded basically on empiricism and lean thinking. The empiricism is that knowledge comes from experience, the one which you can touch and feel. That is what empiricism is all about. So it all depends. The Scrum is basically that you feel, you touch, and how you develop it. And lean thinking is to reduce waste and focus on what is important. So that's how the Scrum theory is developed. And it is based on three main pillars, which is transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Transparency is something where everybody knows what is happening in the Scrum. And in particular point of iterative sprint, all the team members knows where exactly a certain issue or certain development of the product is, and also the team members, not only the Scrum team, if any from the third outsiders will come into that place where the Scrum team is, they could easily understand what the project is and where the project right now is. So that is how the transparency is. Inspection, you need to inspect on an iterative way. Every time you inspect where you are and how you're developing, whether you're developing in a proper way or not, and then go back and adapt. So if something is not working in a way that you think it should, you adapt immediately and you change your course and you move in a different course. So these are the three pillars that are most important, where the Scrum is all built on. Next slide. And these are the main thing for the Scrum. Although these are values, and these are most of the time will not be followed by many of the Scrum teams, or I could say take it as a default, or and not being considered as a main thing. But these values are the most important, and I recommend all of you to put these values, at least a Scrum Master or who is working as a Scrum Master or product owner, and even the development team, if you're a part of the team, you put this in your slides or in your, if you're working online right now, that is the only way, or if you're working as a team in a place, you keep that on your whiteboard. But these are the ones which are depending, which makes the team cohesive and make it much more useful. So, and I recommend this to keep that at least in the formation or team formation time, so that the team will know exactly how and what these values are. I will just go through in a very high level way: courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. Courage is where the Scrum team have the courage to say no, or courage to make corrections, correct even the product owner or Scrum master or whoever, because it is all the team that is developing and they know exactly what they are doing and how they are developing. Courage helps the team to make the product better. Focus, you are completely focused on what you have to develop during that iteration. And all the team members have to be thoroughly understanding what needs to be done and keep focus so that they can develop it properly. And commitment, you have to commit during the planning session. We'll see it in the next couple of slides. And during this planning session, you will commit that they will develop and they will provide after this iteration this product, this features of the product. So you have to commit that and make sure that happens. So commitment is that. And respect each other. Everybody has their own positivity and negative, or I would say some weakness and strengths. So the team has to respect each other, understand their weaknesses, understand their strengths, and one person's weakness should become another person's strength. And that way the team will become cohesive and make sure or make use a collective strengths of the team to make it happen. And openness. This is, although it is saying less, but it's the most important. You have to open to each other. Instead of blaming, you need to understand where you need to develop it, how to move, how to develop, and how to make it work. So these are the main important values for each team that, or for a Scrum team to follow. And I recommend this very much, although most of us don't take it seriously, but at least in my Scrum team, when I keep these values on a regular basis, or if I'm on a virtual, I'll keep it as my background. So at least they will know, they will see it on a regular basis. Once or twice they understand it, and this will help definitely. And next slide. So from here onwards, we are going into the actual Scrum process. So does anyone know what sprint is? Is silence, or am I missing something here? A fixed duration cycle? Yes. Iteration? Okay. Any further? Any others?
Time bound, Vamshi saying. Yeah, time box
Yeah.
event.
Time box event project. Okay. So most of you are correct. Sprint is a time boxed event. If you understand, if you see most of these names that you see, Scrum, Sprint, they're all from sports. So Sprint, I know most of you already know, Sprint is a short duration, fast burst running. Usain Bolt, for example, everybody knows him. He's the 100-meter champion. So sprint is that it's a time bound, it's a short duration, and a time-bound event where all the team come together with certain events and certain part of the team to make it happen, all the features that they are agreed to commit to finish it off. They will come into this short time bound event to make it happen. So that is what sprint is. And in the sprint, we have various things. For every sprint in a Scrum, we have a team members, a Scrum team, and Scrum ceremonies or events, and some artifacts that we have to follow to make it happen. So all together, they come towards to make the features or to make it a successful product development. So next slide. Here is the Scrum team. So I told you for any sprint, we need certain number of Scrum team. And as I told you in my previous slide in the history of the Scrum, there's a Scrum 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. From Scrum 1.0, the Scrum team has both the business owner, end users, and basically stakeholders are also involved in it in the Scrum team. Later on in the Scrum 2.0, they realized to have Scrum of Scrums and enterprise level. When they see it, they realize that keeping the whole stakeholders into the Scrum team is actually a counterproductive, and make it as a product owner as a responsible person and put it inside the Scrum and remaining all outside. So from Scrum 2.0, that's when the development has happened. And in the Scrum team, the box that you see here, in the Scrum team, we have a Scrum Master, a product owner, and a team. Development team that we call generally. And in the development team, we have developers, testers, business analyst, architect, all of them, all the software development team. It's not only the software, even if you see in any product development, there are many cross-functional teams that come together. One from these cross-functional team will come into the sprint. Although they have titles like a developer or a QA or all that, when they come to a Scrum team, they don't have a title. They are a team. So they are cross-functional in a way. They understand the other person's work as well, at least to basic level. So if the person is not available, they can take over that work and start developing it. Or for example, a developer can test it, a tester can develop it. A business analyst can work as a product owner, or a Scrum Master and an architect can develop, or all that. So it's kind of cross-functional, and also they understand what the other person is working on. That way, you're not dependent on only one person. Team will work together, and they understand what the problems of the other team person is having. So how difficult it is to develop, or how difficult it is to test. When you put a tester hat, what you need to do, and when you put a developer hat, what you need to do. So those are the things that you need to understand. And as I mentioned, in the Scrum Master is basically a servant leader. He's a facilitator that we can see in the next slide, where I'll give you glimpses of what the responsibilities of each team member is. But basically, Scrum Master is a facilitator and a problem solver. His main role is here to facilitate various ceremonies of the Scrum and make sure the artifacts are complete, and also remove any blockers that the Scrum team will be facing on. That's the main role of the Scrum. But depending on the organization and team and the maturity of the team, Scrum Master can be also a coach to a certain extent, a project manager, and many other things. But Scrum theory, and as per the Scrum guide, he's the facilitator and problem solver. A product owner, on the other hand, is the one which is having a vision, a product vision. Say, for example, you are developing a product, and product owner is the one which understands what is the business value of that product and what is the important thing that needs to be developed in the immediate next sprint or next iteration. So in the first iteration, what needs to be done? What's the important thing that the stakeholders are looking for? Next sprint, what are the next things that are important? So product owner is the one which actually tells the team what needs to be developed and what is the business value for the product, and he's the responsible or accountable for the development of the product. So he will be reporting to the business owner who's sitting outside that in a bigger stakeholders and the other sponsor team. So from them, he understands the whole concept of what product is and provide a product backlog that we can see in the next couple of slides. What is product backlog and all that in some certain artifacts. So again, he will be the person who will create the backlog, who will provide what needs to be developed and all that for the development team. And for the Scrum Master, he needs to develop a rundown chart and sprint backlog and all that. Those are the artifacts that Scrum Master will look into. And development team, basically, they develop the product, they find out the features from the user stories, and they develop that user stories. They do the poker game, and they understand how much the work needed to be done during that sprint, and take those user stories and develop them. So that's the responsibility of the Scrum team. And here, what developing doesn't mean it's only developing. They will understand in the big picture how it is designed as per the architect. From architect point of view, as a business analyst, the user stories will be developed, and those user stories, how it is be useful in the product, and developers will develop, testers will test it. So by the end of the sprint, there will be a finished feature or finished product for the stakeholders to see what it in the product timeline. So that's the Scrum team. Any questions so far before I move on to next slides? Difference between project manager, Scrum Master, domain expert. Okay, difference between project manager, Scrum Master, domain expert. That's a good question. Theory-wise, there is a lot of difference. But when you come to practical, because I want to be here as much practical as possible than theory, because when you actually go into the real-time scenarios, that's when you need to understand how the Scrum Master works, what the project manager works, and what's the domain expert or any other work. As I said, as per the Scrum guide, Scrum Master is a servant leader. He's a facilitator. He doesn't work in the Scrum team, although it is good to have some knowledge, any knowledge like development knowledge or business analyst or product owner. Any that knowledge will help for the Scrum Master, but essentially his role is to facilitate and remove any hurdles that the Scrum team might have. For example, I'll just give you an example. It happened with me in a real-time scenario. In a sprint, we are developing, and suddenly a product owner or the stakeholders, not even the product owner, the stakeholder came up and said, we have a breach in one of the areas, in one of the environments. Hacking happened, and I need to know from the Scrum team who is the responsible. So I'm asking you here from the attendees, what would be your immediate response because if the hacking happened and you're working in a client environment, client came to you as a Scrum Master and asked you, hey, guys, breach happened, hacking happened. I want to know who's the responsible here in the Scrum team. So what's your immediate response? Anybody? Problem solver? Yes. Ask for more details, find RCA? Nobody? Update the product backlog? Okay. Yes, absolutely. If you think in a guide or theory based, these are the ones that you need to respond. But in a real-time scenario, it doesn't work out like that. It's a client, and client is putting a lot of pressure on you, and the buck stops at you. So what I did as a Scrum Master is I immediately went to my team and found out from the team that the environment that they are looking is a development environment. It is not even a testing environment, and none of the team actually worked. So I stopped the bug there. I politely responded to the stakeholder that team is very busy and they're developing a sprint. I went to the product owner, immediately responded to the product owner and my immediate managers and my immediate other stakeholders, and apprised them saying that breach happened, somebody, but it's not from our team, and team, I don't want to touch the team, but if any information is required, I'm ready to help. So I took the whole responsibility. And that way, what happened is sprint team didn't got any problem. They started working on their own. They didn't have, I shielded them basically from all the storm that is happening. They, in the end, we provided a proper iteration or proper sprint product. And that is because it is a development environment, luckily, nothing serious happened. But yes, these kind of things happen. The reason I gave this example is as a Scrum Master, the buck stops at you. You are the responsible for your team. And if the sprint didn't develop properly, although product owner is accountable, but you are responsible as a Scrum Master. So I'm giving you from the Scrum Master point of view. And from the product owner point of view, if the feature that developed by the sprint, end of the sprint, is not suitable for the stakeholders, that's where his accountable is. That's where the problem lies with the product owner. So that's how the sprint is developed or created. The framework is created so that everybody has certain responsibilities and accountabilities, and at the same time, that accountability or responsibility is not falling on the team so that they are not getting diverted or disturbed. So that's the Scrum Master. And Project Manager, you might have now understood the difference. Project Manager is responsible for the whole project. He's part of product owner, he's a Scrum Master, he's responsible for the development, he's responsible for the planning, scheduling, everything. In the Scrum Master, it is not the case. In Scrum Master, you have certain limitations, certain responsibilities, and accountabilities. And a domain expert is basically a domain expert. He has knowledge. For example, I'm very good in pharma and healthcare knowledge. I do have the regulations, the knowledge on regulations, knowledge on working patterns, manufacturing, R&D, how a product develops, what happens after the development, what happens in the supply chain, what happens in the clinical trial. I do all that now. But then that knowledge certainly will help you as a Scrum Master, but doesn't necessarily will make your role easy, if you know what I mean to say. So that's the difference. Hope I make that clear. Okay, perfect. So next slide. Here, the responsibilities of each Scrum team. As you can see, product owner is responsible for the user stories, acceptance criteria, product vision, prioritization of the user stories, and stakeholders. He has to report to the stakeholders. So these are his responsibilities. And Scrum team, they perform the work, adapt to the changes. They have to adapt to the changes that's happening in the sprint, and decompose the stories, size the stories, and shippable features. That means once the sprint is over, they need to ship the features. They need to complete the product, the features that they're committed to complete on that sprint. And Scrum Master basically facilitates the meeting, coach the team, and if there are any impediments, he has to solve those, remove the blockers, provide feedback to the team, and as also to the product owner, help with stories, help write and help with the stories, and help facilitating the sizing of the stories and all the other aspects in the sprint. So he's not responsible for the development per se, but he's accountable for the development. And next slide. And these are the Scrum events and ceremonies. There are 5, generally they say, including the sprint that we already discussed about sprint, so I only kept 4 here. In any sprint, as it is a time bound, there are 4 ceremonies that we definitely have to do. The daily stand-up, sprint planning, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. Here you can see in the slide that in each ceremony, which team members will be taking part of this particular ceremony or event. And also here you can see for 1 month of a sprint, what is the time slots for each ceremony. For example, if you see for 1 month, generally the sprints that I worked are 2 weeks. So this is half of it. Sprint planning is basically 4 hours of each sprint. For 1 month, it is 8 hours. In that 8 hours, you need to plan the sprint. You need to find out from the product owner which user stories or which features that needs to be developed from which user stories, and find out those user stories and check whether that user stories can be from the development team, whether it can be developed properly or not, and what are the work that needs to be done, how much for each user story, what is the estimation for each user story, and so on and so forth. So for that, it takes for a couple of weeks, it is 4 hours, but for 1 month, it is an 8 hours of planning that needs to be done. And then a daily stand-up or daily scrum. For each scrum, it is generally, I make sure that it is only 15 minutes or less than that, as a matter of fact. Here, we don't discuss anything except what happened yesterday, what did we do yesterday, what will happen today, what will we be working on today, are there any blockers to complete for today's work. So these are the only things that needs to be discussed on the sprint, on the daily scrum. And in the daily scrum here, they mentioned only the development team needs to be there, but this development team, this is highly matured team where they know exactly what they're doing, and they don't need to worry anything. And during that level of maturity, only developers can take part. But in general, most of the teams, Scrum Master will participate here. He will be facilitating this daily Scrum, and he will be going through each developer, each team member, find out from them what are the difficulties or what are the blockers, and try to resolve the blockers as soon as possible. So that's the daily Scrum. And in the sprint review, here we review the team comes together with the stakeholders and product owner during the end of the sprint. They come together, they review. Review is basically to provide the stakeholders what they have completed, what features they have completed, and how it is going to help in a product development. And here they understand from the stakeholders whether whatever the features they develop or whatever the user stories that they completed is part of a bigger plan or part of the product development or not, or they need to change the course. This is where they understand, the team will understand uh, whether the feedback that they're getting is proper and it is exact to the product development or not. So this is the main important event or a ceremony for the sprint. And now, last but not the least, and it's also one of the important aspects, is the retrospective. Here, the team will come together with the product owner and all the Scrum team, basically. They will sit together. They will go through each and every person, understand from each other. Here, the openness of the team members will come. This is where we need to be open and understand what happened in the sprint, where we went wrong, if at all we went wrong. What can we do better to make the next sprint successful? So, for example, if we estimated wrongly, or how can we improve our estimation process, or whether the product owner, the user stories that the product owner took, are they correct, or they need to further cut down those or decompose those user stories? Are they too high? Those kind of things. It's basically an open chat between those two, between the team members, but it's mainly three aspects again. What went wrong in the sprint? What can we do better? And is there any feedback for the team members? So, and this will help for developing a next sprint and make the project completion or the product development a successful one. So how each event is useful and important in the sprint process, in the Scrum process. Very few, but it's the best way to develop. And next slide. Yeah, here, this here is the time box for each sprint. I gave time box event for 4 weeks. On the top, you see 4, 3, 2, 1, which actually talks about the weeks of each sprint and what is the time box for each event that needs to be general. These are all thumb rules. It is not hard and set. You can change, but in general, in my experience, 2 weeks, unless you have that number of hours, it really doesn't help your a successful sprint. So these are the most important time box. It gives you a kind of ballpark figure or a view for you to plan the sprint properly as a Scrum Master. So next slide. And here we come for the artifacts. And this is the last or probably last but one slide. I don't where these are the number of artifacts that we need to actually develop during the Scrum process. Here, most of these, some of these will not be generally present in various organizations. It again depends on the team and organization. Product vision. What exactly is the product? A high-level vision. For example, in a pharmaceutical product, the vision is that we need to develop this feature in this tool or in this IT solution or app, so that the team will or the end user will have this benefit. that level of immediate vision or tangible and reachable vision should be there. And a sprint goal for each sprint. What is the goal? Which feature are you developing? And in that feature, what user stories that needs to be completed? That is the goal of the sprint. That needs to be there. And product backlog is the most important aspect. This product backlog consists of all the user stories and features for the complete of the product, for the complete development of the product. You might not use all the user stories for each sprint. Some of those from this product backlog come to the sprint backlog. And in the sprint backlog, you use those user stories that needs to be developed during that sprint, and you make it as a sprint backlog. And in these two go hand in hand. And for example, if you didn't complete, you estimated small, and you took more user stories, and for example, it took a lot of time for you to develop. So from sprint backlog, it goes back to the product backlog. You speak to the product owner and you make sure that that particular user story or user stories that not been developed during this sprint will go back again to product backlog and next come back again to the next sprint during the planning session. So that's they both go both hand in hand. And then comes burn down chart. This is one of the important artifact for a Scrum Master here, and also the Scrum team to a certain extent. Here, with this chart, immediately we understand how we are developing our user stories in each sprint, whether our estimation is correct or not. And after estimation, how fast are we completing our tasks? So as I already told you in my previous slide, once you got the user stories, Scrum team will decompose these user stories into tasks, and each task will have certain estimation points, and these estimation points will come into your burn down chart. So in each day during the development or daily Scrum, you understand what are the tasks that are completed, and you complete them in your burn down chart. That way you understand in each during the sprint life cycle how these tasks are getting completed. With the simple plans on this burn down chart, you can understand whether the estimations you're doing is correct, whether any cooking is happening. Cooking in the sense like, sometimes we as a team will estimate and then park it, and we rush everything during the end of the sprint. So with a burn down chart, you can easily understand what is happening with the team, whether we are rushing during the end of the sprint or whether taking the tasks on a regular basis. Each developer, where they are, what is happening with a certain developer, and all that level of information will be easily available for the team as well as Scrum Master. Definition of done. This is where this artifact will actually tell you whether the feature that you developed is finished or not. So for each user story, there is an acceptance criteria. And that acceptance criteria, when it met, that's when definition of done is completed. So you tested it, you completed the development, you tested it, and you put it in the production environment, and you see whether it is, or at least in the validation environment, and see whether it is completed or not. So whatever that feature intended purpose is met, it comes from the product owner. He will provide you the definition of done, and your testers and your team will check whether it is met. That's when the user story is completed. So increment, this is another artifact where you find what are the sprints, what are user stories that needs to be developed, and where they are. So these are the artifacts that we need to take care in each sprint or in the Scrum framework as a method development. Any questions so far? I think I took some extra time here, but hope I'm on time. Vinay, are there any questions from the team, from the
Yes,
participants?
I'm seeing the chat. Give me a second. So Durga Srinivas is asking whether the sprint review can be done in the middle of the sprint.
That's a good question. I want to understand why, in what scenario you think that it could be done in the middle. For me, I think sprint review has to be during the end of the sprint. Only when you complete the whole features that you committed to complete during that sprint process. Having said that, sometimes we estimate and there is a big blocker that cannot be completed, resolved. And then as a Scrum Master, you have to take a decision and make sure that you can make the review happen early and complete the sprint, to close the sprint. That can happen. It is not, as I said, these are the ceremonies, these are the events, these are the artifacts and framework that is loosely provided to you. As a Scrum Master, you and a product owner, you can take a decision at any point of time. If the sprint is not going as it should, there are too many blockers, or there is for example, it can happen and it will happen in most of the pharmaceutical products. A legal issue will come, a regulatory aspect will come, and as a Scrum Master, you have to look back and say, okay, there is a legal aspect here. I cannot move this features go forward. We need to take back a step back, understand this, and then complete it. You put the review forward. You complete the sprint formally, and then go for the next sprint.
Yep. Okay. So the next question is Arvind Kumar. What tools we use in Scrum?
Oh, good question. There are so many tools. Jira. There are Trello is also sometimes used to make sure but end-to-end tool that I used and worked very, very beautifully is Azure DevOps. I recommend if possible, if your organization is having this Azure DevOps, I recommend this tool to anyone. It is end-to-end. I mean, from the product vision to completion of the artifacts and put them into the product environment, a production environment. Everything is in one place. So the team can see from the GitHub who's developing what, and from the testing environment, what it's been tested, all of it. Jira is good. Jira has the same capability. Azure DevOps has the same capability. To a certain extent, sprint plan, it is tricky, it is difficult. Even MS Project, I used a little bit of Scrum sprint process. It is difficult. It can be understand only an MS Project person or a project manager who worked as a project manager and moved into Scrum Master. That person can understand, but most of them, I believe, Jira and this Azure DevOps is good.
Sure. Yep. Yes, as rightly Gokul said, there are many tools in the market. Azure DevOps, Jira, Rally, GitLab also. They are coming up with new tool. GitHub, basically. Yep, there are many tools. So the next question is, I think there are guys asked about what is the ideal time for the sprint?
Again, it is depends on the team and complexity of the product development. So most of the team members use, or most of the teams that I personally know or worked with use 2 weeks time, but I know for a fact that Amazon or any new high, Meta, these companies, they use even a day worth of sprints. So as I said, it depends on the project, depends on the complexity of the uh, product that you're developing. Some some are so complex that you need to have 4 weeks worth of time. And again, these time factors or time bound events are there because when the development team estimates, they use certain aspects. Most of the teams use Fibonacci numbers. So each story point has, each user story has a certain user story points. That means certain number of hours to work. So when you come to that level of breakdown, you will understand that certain user story or feature cannot be developed in 2 weeks time. It needs more time. Then either you park it or you cut down that user story to decompose that user story to further smaller ones. If not, then you go for a 4 weeks user sprint. If yes, then you use 2 weeks and you complete it. And to certain product development, you don't need that much of development. You just need to change and uh, uh, maybe be UI or UX or something like that. Then you use 1 day sprints as well. It all, again, as I said, depends on how good your team is, how mature your team is, and how complex the product is.
Yes, I agree. And we have one interesting question. I think we should take it as a last question. This one from Pupala Shrikant. And thanks, Shrikant, for this good question. For a real-time construction project, we might face on-site challenges, reworks, and design changes. How can we manage the product backlog, which was already defined earlier? The
Yeah,
prioritization. Yep, go ahead, Gokul. Yeah.
that's a good question. It's a man. I mean, I can see the similarities between a construction and a manufacturing. Both of them heavily depend on waterfall methodology because the scope is well known. You know exactly what you need to develop. So there are minimal changes that happen during the course of the development. Hence, we are heavily depend on the waterfall. Having said that, recently even the agile and various other aspects are creeping into the manufacturing aspect as well. The best example that I can give is mobile phone development. It's a product manufacturing, but they are bringing up every new product, new mobile every year, technology, new laptops, something like that. So we can certainly use certain aspects of agile or scrum in manufacturing or construction as well. For example, as you said, you are in the site and there is a design changes that came up. How you manage the product backlog? Just before I mentioned, if if you cannot continue with the sprint, if you cannot make it happen, close the sprint, close that particular time box event prematurely and say, yes, there is a problem here. They're closing it down, formally close it, go back to the drawing board, check it out, what is happening with the new designs or new things that came to your light, and see, okay, maybe because of the rain, it has not happened. So there's a big hurdle that cannot be resolved. Park it. Rains completed. You need to develop again. I'm just giving you a high level of example. Just don't take it like that, but based on my understanding. And then you go back to the drawing board, you design, you see what needs to be done, which important or in the product backlog during that particular point of time you may not get the same user stories that you previously thought should be there based on the new requirements, based on the new time that you are in. There are some new requirements that come in, and that needs to be taken priority. So as a product owner and scrum master, you will bring that to the next sprint and you start working on them. For example, during the raining season, you may not work on construction. You may work on something else. For example, internally, you may lay plumbing work, or you may lay electricity work, or something like that, and you develop those during that period of time. And later on, you bring those other things which needs to be done during that time. So the Scrum methodology, or the Scrum framework is not a hard and set rule. You can change, you can bring whenever and whatever you want during which time you are in. It's that's why the Scrum framework is majorly dependent on the people and the communication and the maturity of each person about the Scrum framework has. We can change and we can bring our own uh, techniques, frameworks into this and make it work, make it happen. Hope I make it easy.
Well, thank you, Gokul. I think we are on time. Thank you for clarifying question. It was really good question. So yes, once again, we are reiterating the statement. This series is meant for for everybody who want to learn agile on the basics, and then we are paced our topics in such a way that we will cover basics and then the advanced topics in the season two. As of now, this is the last but one session in this season. The next session will be the last session, and in the season two we'll be going little bit advanced topic, and we are want to target every industry like IT. So already using this agile from the decade from past 2 decades in construction, pharma, aerospace, and other industries as well. Thank you for asking the questions. Keep it coming. You can utilize the our Telegram group team for more questions. We are happy to answer there. And yeah, Gokul, it was really good session, good interactive session. Thanks for coming forward because you are our part of our board. And in fact, on behalf of the board, thank you very much for coming forward and taking the session on the Scrum, taking the basics and with your relevant experience. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, especially on 31st Saturday morning. Thank you. And
Thank you.
team, so, yep, thank you, Gokul. And
Thank you all. Sorry, Vinay, just as
go
last.
ahead, go ahead. Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you all for joining. It was a wonderful session and wonderful people. Uh, some good questions. So I'm very happy that I'm here and giving my knowledge or learning from you as well. Because the way I see is when I teach or when I say something, I'm learning a lot from other from the questions or from you as well. Having said that, I'm very happy and that most of you joined today on the 31st and Saturday night, a beautiful ending for this year. And uh, I wishing you a very happy, prosperous, healthy new year, and may all your wishes come true for the next year. Enjoy.
Sure, Gokul. Thank you. And we will. There are a couple of announcements, team. So as you all know, we are gearing up for our Agile conference in 2023 on Jan 21st. It's from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can scan this QR code for the registration link, and also paste the registration link in the chat. So this is in-person registration fee is 1250, and per member. For non-member, it is 1500, and we are in conducting this conference in hybrid mode. For online, for member and non-member, it's 700, which is all inclusive 18%. And in person, we have limited capacity in our brand new facility in the T Hub. So please hurry up for the registrations. Any questions on the registrations, please do reach out to me or anyone from the board, and just drop a note in the Telegram group. We will help you. And upcoming session, yes, it is on the next Saturday we will be shortly sharing the speaker name and topic. And these are the upcoming workshops team, PMP workshop, which will start in Jan 7, 8, 21, 22, and in February 4, 5, 11, 12. And the ACP workshop is on February 4, 5, 11. And the Discipline Agile Senior Scrum Master workshop is from Jan 17th to 20. Please do reach out to Academy for more queries, or if you need any information on the fees and all, just drop a note in the Telegram group. And for those who have attended today with proper registration details, you will be credited, auto credited PDU. One PDU will be auto credited towards the category of ways of working. And please wait for a week, and if you are not getting the PDU auto credited after a week, please do reach out to us in Telegram group. And for any questions, you can mail me at programs@pmipcc.org, or you can text on WhatsApp. This is my contact number, 9989348878. That's all, team. Thank you for joining on Saturday. It was great learning again, and I keep saying sharing is caring. So keep coming forward, keep learning, and we'll do our best to give back to the community. Thank you, and happy New Year, advance, and may the New Year bring all prosperous and joy for you. And see you in the next session. Bye.
Thank you all again. Bye.
Bye. Bye.